Alright, today Noble, Juko, and Zens is gonna break down 3 insane samples using the free AURORA SHA-1 kit.
What's good, y'all? It's Noble. Hope you're enjoying the video so far. I'm about to break down a sample I made using pretty much entirely AURORA, split into 2 FLPs. I'm gonna try and keep it short and concise, so let's get straight into it. Alright, so before we break it down, this is what the final sample sounds like. Crazy. So I already mentioned there's 2 FLPs. Let's go back into the first one. First sound we're starting with is a pluck from AURORA called Money Longer. We're going for a little baby triplet feeling, so I made sure to go to this magnet and snap it to 1/3 step. And we're pretty much just taking the B minor scale and playing these nice triplet runs, and then adding in some small top notes to complement it. And then as for effects, what we're pretty much trying to do here is make it really spacey and kind of sound watery. So without effects, you'll get something like this. Really basic, not interesting at all. And with effects, you get this. So that's being done with Valhalla Supermassive. We're also using the Echoes preset on Portal. And then we're also using halftime, but we're automating that, so it only comes in the last 4 bars. Everything else is pretty much just reverb, EQ, delay, etc. From here, we're using this pad shot called Jungle, putting as much reverb as I can on this and trying to make it like more of an accent or a texture, some kind of ambience that you hear in the background. And following a little bit of a kind of ladder format here. Going up, down, up, down. Now I'm using a lot of accents, so to keep this short, I'm just going to kind of go through each one as quick as I can. This one kind of sounds like it was sampled out of an old like R&B song or something like that, so that's kind of the feeling that we're going for by putting it right at the beginning. Next, we're using this one more time accent as a way to build rhythm. And you'll see that Echoes building rhythm, and then we're helping that with some reverb. From here, we're using pretty much one of the easiest tricks to do with accents, which is to play an accent that lasts somewhere between 1 and 2 bars, and then reverse it, so it kind of makes a full 4-bar phrase. Now we're using this accent called Under, which has a lot of rhythm to it. And we're giving it even more rhythm by adding in delay. And also making sure to keep it not too dry, you know, adding a lot of reverb, some crystallizer and things like that. And we're also only cutting out the second half of the phrase, so it's a little bit repetitive. And what repetition does for the listener is gives them something to latch onto. So now we've got this reverse accent here. The purpose of reverse accents is just kind of as transitional phrases to kind of guide the listener's ear into the next part of the sample. And it's a very distorted accent, kind of jarring, but in a good way. Now we have these 2 chord shots in which I EQ'd like all of the bass out. So they're really being used for nothing more than just ambience. Same thing here, but we're also trying to use this one to continue that old sampled R&B kind of feeling. Obviously, the sample's nowhere near R&B, but the point I'm trying to make is that there's enough aspects that feel sampled. So before exporting and flipping it, we had this. So the first thing I did in this FLP was slow it down to 138, and then I put the starter onto this channel where pretty much what I'm doing is just adding this Portal preset called And Pan. And what this preset does is act as a mix of halftime and also shaper box, and pretty much just cuts out the second part of each little phrase in the sample. So we end up getting this after rendering it out. Which sounds cool, but it sounds way too empty. So what we're doing from there is putting it onto channel 2 and adding this delay. And we made sure the time is far enough back that it's actually setting off a kind of ripple effect. Building layers as it plays out. And then we're using the same bass line that I mentioned earlier, obviously just transposed a little bit. So the next thing I'm doing here is a cool technique in which I like to use a piano and actually use really high notes with the intention of pitching them down an octave because it gives them a really cool texture and kind of sound to them. It really changes the tone a lot. Without effects, it sounds like this. And with effects, we get this. Completely different tone. And this is also building a source of repetition and rhythm. So now we just add in this piano accent and halftime it. Then just a simple texture from Aurora. Pitch that down an octave as well for that same tonal idea. And then we get the full sample. Yeah, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the making of the sample.
Let's go ahead and find some accents to start this off.
Six months later.
Alright, so I found this flute phrase called the autumn leaves, and I just kind of repeated it at the 2-bar. Threw some halftime on here, some EQing on the low, some reverb, delay, and then some more EQ. So I just played out this little bell melody. Got some EQing on here, some reverb, more delay, EQ, and a halftime. Now I'm gonna look for some more sounds to stack on top of this. So I found this bass shot called the Stone Cold Bass Shot, and this is what it sounds like. Just threw an EQ to get rid of the high end. Got some Porter on here. We got another flute phrase right here. This is what it sounds like. Do some EQ on here, some reverb, delay, EQ, halftime. Got this little reverse accent coming in. And last but not least, right here, I got this other accent. Now I'm gonna play everything together on what we got right now. I went ahead and rendered this out, pitched it up 4 semitones, and now this is what we have.
Alright, so I kind of cooked up like a Travis Scott type of sample with this one. Kind of dark, kind of ambient. Started off with these accents, kind of just have them repeating. After that, I kind of wanted to start getting like a good melody going. So I ended up laying down like this really like simple bell melody. And after that, I wanted to kind of fill out the melody just a little bit with some chords. This is kind of like in the background, but I got this pad shot from the Aurora collection, and it was mostly just for like ambience and stuff. I chose this mostly because the notes are really close together, so having those repeat just creates a bunch of tension on those 2 parts. Then we kind of have like the second bell melody here. As you can hear, the portal that I have on it is kind of intense, so I ended up bouncing it out and just having like one part of it play throughout the sample. After this, I was kind of just adding like little flourishes, little accents here and there. So first one I ended up adding was this little accent here, and I kind of chopped it up. The second one is kind of like a reverse kind of bell melody, so it adds like a nice tension to it that kind of goes along with like the pads that I played earlier. Another little accent that I put in here, it really like supports that dark vibe I was going for, so that's why I kind of put it in there. Then I added these like little transitional accents. They still have a melodic element to it, but they were mainly just to transition from one part to the next. So I have this vibrance one too. Still ambient, but a lot more distorted. I really wanted that for like that transition part where I bring in some of the other elements of the melody. The other elements that I was talking about just now is the vocal chops that I did here. So as you can see, I kind of did a few automations and I chopped up some of the accents and reversed them. And speaking of vocals, I forgot to mention the other vocals I had in here was another vocal chop from Aurora. And then when the transition happens into like the section B, I just pitch it up an octave. And the last thing I kind of threw in here right at the end was this guitar phrase. That thing is just super hard, especially when you put like a bunch of reverb on it, real ambient. And once you pitch it down, it sounds like real dark, like very like Travis Scott-esque. That's kind of like the main gist of the sample. The master processing, I did put a little cassette on here in the clean tape preset. Then I put sketch cassette on here. I got kind of like the usual stuff, kind of aged the sample a little bit with this little fader here, add a little bit of saturation, and then have like the depth and intensity up just a little bit, not too aggressive, and keeping like the compression pretty low too, so it's not messing with the dynamics too much. Of course, I have like the go-to mid side. This is just going to widen the sample a lot and just keep the bass mono. So that's really dope. And then finally, I have sound shifter on here, which is pitching the melody down. But yeah, that's about it for the sample.
You can download a free version of this one-shot kit in the description. But if you want some crazy bonuses and VIP stuff that comes with this kit, make sure you sign up for the waiting list. That link will be in the description too. We're going to see you on the next video. You feel me, gang?